Okay, let's turn now to just the worst thing. This is like almost a spiritual follow-up update to the Dr. Oz story. You'll know what I'm talking about in just a minute. Let's talk about Bo Hines, congressional candidate I don't think we've ever mentioned on the show before. He apparently
his name is Bo Hines. Sorry for interrupting you. His name is
Bo Hines. It's his real name, Bo Hines. He's a 27-year-old congressional candidate. Young candidates are becoming more common. But in this guy's defense, he comes equipped with a lot of experience. He was a college football player, and then he briefly worked for a couple of Republicans, and then that's it. Anyway, in campaigning in a year where Roe v. Wade has been utterly annihilated, a lot of these candidates are having to be careful about how they talk about abortion and access to abortion. And Bo Hines is also being careful. He has an idea for how to sort of compromise between the two different sides. He thinks that abortion should be unlawful, except in cases where a mother's life is at risk. Okay, so that seems pretty extreme. He thinks victims of rape and incest, though, should be allowed to get an abortion on a case-by-case basis through a community-level review process outside the jurisdiction of the federal government. Like getting together a group of politicians to weigh your particular story, your trauma, to decide whether you get to have an abortion. Critics have dubbed this rape panels, and I think that's perfectly fair. The idea that you would have to come in the immediate aftermath of the worst thing that has ever happened to you to stand before a group of dudes to explain why your rape was bad enough that you should be allowed to get an abortion, that's utterly horrendous. This is Bo Hines, by the way. He's endorsed by Donald Trump. I mean, why wouldn't Donald Trump have endorsed him? He's a 27-year-old guy with literally no experience whatsoever, who holds the sort of radical ideas that you're supposed to for the former most powerful person in the world to believe that you should have a position in Congress. Anyway, rape panels, that's potentially even worse than what Dr. Oz was saying with the local political officials getting involved. Anna, what do you think?
I think that people like him look at Gilead and think, oh, this is the how-to manual for us. I mean, so incredibly gross. I mean, government couldn't possibly get any bigger. Having a panel of politicians make a determination about something traumatic that may have happened to someone. We don't need any government official involved in those incredibly important, intimate decisions that have absolutely no impact on them, could have an impact on the country. We do spend tens of billions of dollars every year on unwanted pregnancies. But when it comes to the real consequences, whether it be health-wise, economically, all of those consequences lie in the woman's life, not in the lives of these randos who want to latch on to this disgusting American Taliban message to rally support for their campaigns. But to be honest, when you look at the electorate and where most of them stand on the issue of reproductive rights, they didn't want to ban abortion. So if this guy wants to go around campaigning this way, I don't know if it yields the dividends that he's expecting it to, but I predict that it could actually hurt him. So go for it, Bo.
Well, go for it, Bo. Yeah, look, it is North Carolina, so it's hard to say. I would say that if we're looking for evidence about what he actually thinks will help him or hurt him, we do have a bit of that evidence, and that is that he had previously said that he just supports blanket prohibitions on abortion. So this is supposed to be a softening of that, letting a bunch of old dudes hear about your dad raping you or whatever. Also, after winning the May 17th primary, he removed the life and family section from his website, which previously included links to a fundraising page that claimed life begins at conception and the rights of the unborn must be protected. So while we don't know much about this guy, and let's be clear, Donald Trump and the other Republicans that have endorsed him don't know much about this guy because there's literally not much to know because he's a 27-year-old guy that played some football and then worked for some Republicans and that's it. We can add to the list of things we know about him that he is a complete and utter coward. That, during the primary, he was super strong and bold. The life of the unborn, the rights need to be protected. As soon as he's done with that, get it off the website. I don't want people to know what I actually believe. then they might know who I am and what I would do to them, and then they wouldn't support me. And I really want them to support some idea of what I am based on ignorance. What an utter coward. He's not alone in that. Most of the super strong alpha Republicans ran screaming in terror from their previously stated positions on abortion after they won their primaries, but that's who this guy is. And by the way, just to close out, also, let's see, he's gotten the majority of his campaign funds from a trust fund. Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't it nice to have that? Oh, Bo Hines is such an amazing example of incredibly confident white mediocrity, full of privilege. Anyway, he campaigned on an America First economy, but his campaign hats are made in China, which is fun. He has pushed the big lie and calls for a complete halt to all immigration for 10 years. So cool guy. With all of this, without any qualifications and radical extreme positions, the two polls that I was able to find for this had him up by 5 and then the opponent, the Democrat, up by 1. So this is a toss up at best. This insane radical who's accomplished literally nothing in his life and would want your kids, if they were raped, to go before a rape panel, might well be the next member of Congress.
And there are so many other races just like this. I mean, I can't help but think about the Senate races, which I think have an even bigger impact considering how long their terms are and how small Congress is compared to the House. We could have Dr. Oz be a United States senator. We could have JD Vance be a United States senator. And while it's true that the party in power typically ends up losing power, or at least the majority in the midterm elections, I just feel like some of these races were layups. And Tim Ryan, I think in the final hour really started pushing an aggressive and effective campaign. I don't know if it was done in time to beat JD Vance, but that is also one of those close races that I'm worried about.
Yeah, that's true. We talked a little bit about some of what he had to say. That was good. I don't love Tim Ryan or anything like that, but
yeah, me either, but
he's at least trying.
JD Vance, yeah.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.